Welcome to Shine Women. I'm Sandra Pollock, and I am here with some friends, actually. This is our podcast where we talk about all things that impact on women and their journey through life. And my partner in crime is...
Leanne Bonner-Cock, and welcome to today's podcast.
Absolutely. So as we said, we're going to be talking about all sorts of things that impact on women's lives, their journey, their experiences, and that sort of thing. And our guest today is, I would say, a long-term friend of mine. Actually, I've known her for quite some time. And our topic today is time to talk. We're in the month of October, and here in the UK, one of the things that we consider. Sorry, I'm in October. No, we are in the month of February. And obviously, miles ahead in terms of my year. We're in the month of February, and here we are looking at the topic time to talk. And you should have seen the face of my guests as I said the wrong month there, but never mind.
So I think that comes from Sandra. Your whole life went on pause after those women's awards that you worked so hard to achieve. You momentarily froze in October.
I think you're absolutely right. I think you're absolutely right. And we will share some stuff about the Women's Awards, which happens in September. And yeah, I'm obviously still recovering. So we are talking today about time to talk and what that is all about, what it means, and why talking is important. So our guest, and I'm terrible at introducing people. I really shouldn't say that. So I'm going to ask Linda Neville, who is our guest, to introduce herself and tell us a little bit about her and what she does. First of all, Linda, welcome.
Thank you very much, Sandra. And hello, Leanne, as well. It's lovely to be here.
Hi, Linda.
Thank you very much for introducing me. That was such a funny moment. Leanne's face was an absolute picture when you said October. I'm Linda, as you've rightly said, I'm Linda Neville, and I'm really delighted to be here. I run a company called SanaMente, and what we do is we look after people who are suffering from mental distress, and we help them build mental fitness. So we help them manage distress in the moment, and we help them build good coping strategies for the future. And we do that either face-to-face, or we do it with our online program called Strive.
Awesome. So what does SanaMente mean?
It means healthy mind. It's Spanish or Latin for healthy mind.
Awesome. Yeah, I wondered some time ago when you started up with that, because you've been actually a therapist. Tell us what you are outside of before I say the wrong thing. Go on.
Yeah, so I'm a registered mental nurse, and I have been since I qualified. I registered in 1988, which is quite a wee while ago, actually. And I worked in the NHS for a very long time. I left the NHS in 2011 and set up in business myself then. And since then, I've retrained as a hypnotherapist, and we apply hypnotherapy to the other modalities that we work with. And I also do a bit of expert witness work as well. So I assess people for their care needs for court. So for personal injury, medical injury, clinical negligence, criminal injury, that type of thing.
Yeah, wow. So a wealth of experience.
Yeah.
It's like this is the month for obviously time to talk. I mean, what does that mean? And particularly when we're talking about like now women and in the workplace as well. Like, how do we encourage it? How do we improve things for people?
I think it's about creating that environment where it's okay, really, isn't it? I think that there's a big movement, isn't there, around it's okay to not be okay. And I think, having been in mental health services for 35 years, I've seen it grow and change so much over the years. We've gone from people with difficulties being hidden away to an evolving way of being able to talk about mental illness, mental distress, whatever you want to call it. And we've now got to this position where it's okay to be not okay. It's a bit of a catchphrase, isn't it? And whilst I would agree, it is okay to be not okay, I think sometimes you've got to think, well, actually, let's not just stick with being okay, not being okay. We talk to lots of people who almost accept that because they're not okay, that is how they're going to be for a long, long time. And actually, it doesn't have to be like that. There is something that you can do. You know, you can reach out to someone, you can talk to someone, you can get professional help, advice, support, whatever that happens to be. So whilst it is positive in some ways, I think we have to be mindful of what does that actually mean. You know, it's not okay to accept that you're going to live your life feeling not okay all the time.
Yeah, I think it comes with the connotation, doesn't it? It's like it's okay not to be okay, and talk about it to enable you to do something about it and free yourself of it. It's more that, isn't it? And what
Yes.
we don't want to do is it to become the norm. And I think again within a business community, when we talk about it's okay to be okay, what does that really mean? And it's and for me in the businesses that I've run, it's about creating a safe environment where staff can come and talk to you about the problem, and and you work through it together. It's not just okay, you're not okay, you're coming to work, oh, you've had a day off because you're feeling a bit stressed. And I think there's a real fine line, and we have to be careful around that.
Yeah, and I think it's about helping people to understand that there are various levels of not okayness, aren't there? You might be having a not okay day because something awful, you've had an argument with your partner before you've left the house, or you might be generally unwell with something. You might have something distressing happening in your life, and it's how you help that person gain some sort of agency that they can do something about the thing that they're dealing with.
Yeah.
And feel safe to be able to talk about it.
So from your experience, let's dig down a little bit further. What are some of, we're talking generally about, time to talk, but what are some of the issues, the actual real issues that people are dealing with? We're talking about mental health. We're talking about, what are the experiences that you are seeing people having to deal with?
So, as you know, our Strive programme works with employees who are obviously working within companies. And a lot of the time, the people who are referred to us because they're demonstrating some sort of distress at work. It might be that they're struggling to come to work. It might be capability. It might be sickness absence. But there's something within that employee's behaviour that is causing the employer to be concerned in some way, shape or form. And when we talk to the people on our programme, very often the issue that they're facing and struggling with is not work related. It's outside of work, and it can be something around relationships. It can be something around how they're managing their own emotions. It could be caring difficulties. They may be having caring challenges with children or parents, relationship difficulties with partners or extended people. Sometimes it's neighbours. The breadth of problems that people find distressful to deal with, it is quite a range. So does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And it's an interesting one to think about, from an employer point of view. Quite often employers will say to us, well, if all of that's happening to that person outside of work, then it's nothing to do with me. And
wow.
Yeah. You sort of think, well, that's not very kind, is the first thing that you think. But actually, are you happy then to have an employee within your company who's struggling, not engaged, not productive? And, yes, you've got a moral duty, but do you not have a business duty as well to help that person?
Yeah, because it impacts on the business, doesn't it? It impacts on the outcomes. It impacts on the business's ability to achieve its objectives and its strategy and that sort of stuff. And it's all well and good setting the strategy, but for most businesses, they need human beings to achieve those. Yeah.
And it's likely that if you have one person in distress, then there could be a number of people around that person trying to support that individual. So, you've got a knock-on effect across your business in terms of productivity.
So, it does have a knock-on effect. I think the mood in the office and things like that has a knock-on effect too. And jokes apart, I used to always say, I wish I could put a notice on the office door that said, if you haven't got your shit together today, go home and go and sort it out, because it impacts you, it impacts your mind. It means you can't think straight. You're putting unnecessary pressure and stress on those members of staff because you're not caring about their external environments, and with everything, it's external external influences and environments affect the way we behave. And having been an employee of a number of staff, I think for me, it's your duty as an employer to make sure that your staff are of the best they can be. And if they are having a situation that's impacting work, I think it's in your professional capacity as a leader. It's really up to you to try and facilitate something. I mean, clearly the individual's got to want to change or want to work with somebody, but I think it's your responsibility as a leader.
Yeah. And I think you've got a responsibility as a leader as well to create an environment that is safe and confidential.
Yes. 100%.
You know, because a lot of the time the thing that is causing the person distress is quite personal and intimate to them, or it might even be shameful. And they have to have a level of confidence that if I talk to my colleague, if I talk to my line manager, my boss, whoever, that's going to be held in confidence. It's not going to become office gossip or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for leaders, it's understanding their responsibility to create that psychologically safe environment. And I think, unfortunately, not enough take on that responsibility or recognize that responsibility. So what happens to a person when they get to a point where they're experiencing that? I guess, if I could shouldn't lead in your questions, but what I'm thinking about is that maybe people become overwhelmed with what they're dealing with. What's some of the signs that you've seen of what that might look like?
I think if someone is, if you think about the continuum of stress, for example. So, you know, we all need stress to get us up in the morning, don't we? We need that stress to perform, and it's good quality, positive stress keeps us functioning. But that stress can quite quickly move into being negative, and then it becomes an anxiety situation. And then once you've endured that for a little while, you then move into, you're down the trajectory heading towards burnout. So as you're moving down that trajectory away from the positive stress to the negative overwhelm type, you've got a whole raft of signs and symptoms that are kicking in. So you've got your physical symptoms, you know, you've got your sweating, your heart rate's up, your breathing difficulties, you might feel a bit dizzy, you might feel a bit sick, your legs are a bit shaky, you know, and these can be intermittent, and they can present themselves as physical complaints and physical illnesses that cause the person to think, oh, I can't go to work today because I'm not well. When actually, you know, it's a physical manifestation of a psychological distress. It's not actually a physical condition. So as that person's moving along that trajectory, these can become more intense. You've also got the psychological, being finding it difficult to manage your emotions, finding it difficult to express your emotions. That then has an impact on your communication, that then has an impact on your relationships, both at work and at home. And then it's quite easy when that's happening to find yourself in a cycle of feeling either victimized and resentful and unhappy. Then your mood starting to dip. So, you know, anxiety and low mood are two sides of the one coin. So very often, if you're worried, you're going to be sad, and if you're sad, you're going to be worried. So you've kind of got that cycle happening as well. And then it has an impact on your decisions, and your decisions then they can be challenging, can't they? So it could be decisions around what you're eating, what you're drinking, who you're sleeping with. You know, your behaviours can start to be a bit erratic and a bit difficult, and you can end up doing things that then help you feel guilty and shameful for those, and then you've got that negative spiral that you're working with.
As leaders, Linda, how do we create or cultivate an environment where we're saying it's okay to talk and it's okay to say I've got a problem, I need some help? How do we cultivate that environment?
I think it's about that trust, I think, and it's about that openness, and I think it's about being absolutely fallible as a human being. You know, I think our expectations of people have to be such that we almost expect them to be flaws, that we expect a flaw within an individual that we're communicating with. And if you have a flaw, that's okay, because you're a human. We expect you to have one. And we're happy to help you with that. So I think it's that level of, you know, it's that human connectedness, rather than, you know, I'm your boss, you're at work, and this is what I expect of you, and I expect 100% all of the time. It's that give and take. And as I said, I think the security and the safety is really, really important. That if I tell you something, very personal, you're going to treat that with confidence. You're going to help me, you're going to protect me, and you're going to encourage me to get some sort of help. Now, that doesn't mean to say you're going to go there, that you're going to be okay. You may have to make a very difficult decision, and you may have to say, I don't know, I need to get extra advice on this. What you've told me is something that I don't have the skills to deal with. Therefore, you've told me in confidence, and I need to get advice so that I can support you. And I'm going to go here to get it. Yeah.
No, I agree. And I think for me as a leader, as I've led teams as well, I think some of it's about showing a bit of vulnerability yourself as well to gain that trust, isn't it? So, every single one of us, has moments of weakness. We have moments where we do feel stressed or we're fearing something. And I think just expressing that yourself as well to your team and being open about it, just makes them think, actually, we are all in this position together. It's not just you. It's not unusual. It's the norm for most people, and it's just how we deal with it.
Yeah. And I think there's something as well about the solution focusedness of a conversation. If I'm feeling awful and decide to share something with you, I'm reaching out. I'm almost saying, can you give me a hand? I'm stuck. I don't know what to do with this. So even if the advice that you want to give me is not right, but if you're trying to help me find a solution, if it's not you, point me in the direction of someone else. But to show that care, to show that compassion, that I'm worth you making an effort in trying to help. I think that's really, really important.
And I think, Leanne, you sort of raised the point that I was going to talk about, and it is about how leaders demonstrate their humanity by admitting that they sometimes have, overwhelming situations or stressful situations, and talk about their own experience through that journey. And how they've felt, what they have used themselves in terms of techniques and tools to address that situation. I think if leaders are not honest, as you were saying, Linda, if they're not honest about their experience, then they're not creating that environment where it is seen to be safe for everybody else. So it's being human and not being afraid ourselves. And we've been talking a lot about the work and employment situation, but a lot of our members and our listeners are they're everyday people. They have families, they have doing stuff in the community or whatever. So I guess for me, what I'm thinking about, time to talk, but what does talking do? What difference can talking make for someone, do you think?
I think it's the human connectivity, isn't it? It's connecting to another individual. And it's so important to have that network round about you. So it's important that you can talk honestly and openly with your partner. It's important that you can have those productive conversations, and that you've got those boundaries, that you're looking after yourself within your relationships, and that you're looking after the other person. But not just within communities as well. So you're thinking about your wider community, your workforce, your colleagues, all of those people, because I firmly believe that compassion and connectivity is what holds the world together.
I agree.
We have to nurture that, and we have to pay attention, and we have to work hard at nurturing it. It doesn't just happen. And for us, on our Strive program, we teach around compassion, and we teach that it's made of 7 components. You've got kindness, understanding, dignity, respect, but you've also got wisdom, courage, and strength. So, you are asking people to dig deep into their compassionate wisdom and think, right, I know what the answer is to this, and I'm going to use my strength and my courage to put it into place. But it's not only being compassionate to the world around you, it's being able to receive compassion. And Absolutely. It's also being compassionate to yourself. And quite often, people are not in balance. They're very, very good. Very, very good at being compassionate to the world. But
themselves.
Yeah, but looking after themselves and receiving compassion is really difficult, because you then place yourself vulnerable in a vulnerable position. It's like you said, Sandra, about being, showing that humanity.
Mhm.
But if you place yourself in a vulnerable position, what you do is you give the other person the opportunity to show an act of kindness.
Yeah.
And what you're automatically doing is building that connection and helping that person feel good.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're giving them a gift by allowing them to help you. So
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
I
And
suppose generically as human beings, we're cruel to ourselves, aren't we, really? So
yeah.
we beat ourselves up frequently. So and you see that I do it to myself. So I think that we have these limiting beliefs and we beat ourselves up. And I think only by talking and just general talking, it's like, with friends or colleagues or business acquaintances, it's just like actually we're all feeling the same generally. And it
Yeah.
is, it's back to that, it's okay, it's not just you. Whereas I think sometimes you go down your own little rabbit warren and you think it's just you and the whole world's against you, and and it's all of that, isn't it? And then without talking about it or vocalizing it, you're just internalizing. And I think that time to talk is just like, just go to a coffee shop with a friend and
yeah,
speak. But, there's some people that don't have that opportunity to talk to others. So
yeah.
No.
And one of the things I do like about our network is that we create those opportunities. We meet up and talk, and I mean, and it's about thinking about the people who are around you that are open to you speaking to them, and they honor what you say. And as you were saying, Linda, that what you share with them is going to be kept confidentially, but then that you're providing that same support to them. Because I know from my experience, when I've taken my eyes off of myself and looked to support somebody else, that changes the dynamics. But also, I remember going through a period of time where I've had to really, I'm going to use the word pride. I had to step down from that position of I'm supposed to be the person looking after everybody else. And that can feel good, but actually when you need support, it doesn't feel good because you feel empty. So I had to really step down from that position of being too proud of my own head and actually go to my friends and actually talk and actually say. But you do need to choose your friends. You do need to choose the people that are around you that will support you. Yeah.
I think you also need to, sorry,
sorry.
Leanne.
No, you go on. Go on.
I was going to say, I think you also need to almost have a framework of values, if you like, or a framework of rules around how you live your life, so you can kind of be checking in with yourself. Because I think it's very easy to get very busy. It's very easy to get very focused on, whether you've got something awful happening in your own life and you kind of lose sight of what's happening with your colleagues or your partner. So I think to be able to check in with yourself and say, right, okay, how am I? How am I looking after myself? How am I looking after my community? And am I letting people look after me?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the things that I know that in America, I was looking, I can't remember the details, but there's a big issue in America, and I'm sure that it's a similar issue here in the UK, but with loneliness. And we're not talking about people that don't go out to work only. We're just talking about people generally. So, I mean, what's your view or your experience on this whole loneliness pandemic? It's
an interesting one, because we ask a question around loneliness on our wellness assessment. And it's often surprising to see the people who will say that they are often lonely or they're always lonely. And they're quite often presenting as eccentric, outgoing, bubbly, gregarious people that you think, oh, that's interesting. But these people are busy looking after the world, as I've said before. They're busy being the life and soul of the party and providing entertainment, support, guidance, whatever it happens to be. But they're not opening themselves up to receive. And because they're not opening themselves up to receive, they feel alone. They feel isolated. And they don't know how to make that first step. They've almost boxed themselves into a corner of expectation. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like a mask, isn't it, really? You've put yourself in your own little prison, haven't you? And I think,
Yeah.
you know, that's why I feel like, you know, they've done this, put the mask on, and then you're like literally trapped behind your own bars that you've created for yourself. And, you know, so
Yeah.
it's interesting, isn't it, when you do think about it. And obviously, you know, sharing your experiences is just like freaking amazing, really. And, you know, and I don't think I'm talking out of turn. I have, whilst employed people, I have referred people to Linda when I've had a conversation with them, and it's become beyond where I can help a person. And I think that, you know, one of the important things I think as a leader as well is knowing your own limitations and capability, because, you know, if you do something inappropriate, or, you know, you can make the situation worse. So I think, you know, there's don't mess about with these situations, I think, is what I'm saying. You know, refer it to somebody that really does know, you know, how to handle this. And, you know, one comment that I had from a member of staff was like, you know, the two of you saved my life. And, you know, it really is that on that cusp of like, that's what you did. And I think it's recognizing that and helping the person. And at the time, their thought process isn't rational enough to be able to think for themselves and to maybe seek that help. So I think really you are just giving them that gift to help them and to guide them, really. So it's about signposting them to people like SanaMente and Linda.
Yeah.
I
I think as
agree
well,
100%.
it's important for people. We hear a lot that the people that we work with say a lot that people who've said to them, I can help you, is really, really powerful, because a lot of the time people who are in distress have got to the point where they think their thing is so big it can't be solved and it can't be helped. And just to have another human being go, I can help you with that, or I'll try and help you with that, or even a listen is so powerful. So I think, in terms of time to talk, it is very much the way forward, and time to listen as well.
Absolutely.
So one thing,
that coin. Yes.
yeah, one thing linked with that as well for me is empathy, isn't it? And because, you know, the problem is the problem, and you know, some people lack empathy and think, well, is that your only problem? You know, flipping hack, pull yourself together. And I think you get that. Well, actually, have the empathy that regardless of the situation, that's that person's problem, and we're all different as human beings, and we all like treat things differently. And I would encourage, you know, like Lisa, I think they need to have more empathy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, acknowledge someone's feelings. You know, it's if they are feeling what they're feeling, that's what they're feeling. You know, who are we to say no? You shouldn't be feeling that.
Absolutely.
We shouldn't have that judgment.
Yeah. So correct. And I wish more of us would remember that. You know, we're not living in that person's life, mind, or emotional state. So, you know, it's their interpretation of their experiences, what's going on around them, and we're not. Who are we to say that's good or bad? You know, but we have to acknowledge where they are and give them the support that they need. Yeah. So
No, I was going to say, Linda, to finish up, it would be really great, because I think people gradually get into the state. So it's not like one day you're okay, the next day you're not. I think it's a gradual development into that state. What would be really fantastic would be if you could write an article for our magazine that was just like, you know, the 10 signs of. So, you know, what are the signs that we could recognize, that we could like then just say, even to ourselves, maybe it's time I got some help.
Yeah,
that would be like really powerful as a for the membership.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. More than happy to do that.
Yeah. So
I think it is important. I think it's as important as having your well-woman checks and checking your breasts and having your smear tests. It is really important to check in with your mental health.
It is.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And maybe we need to do that as a country. You know, have a place where we have a check in with your mental health. And it doesn't mean that you're crazy. It just means that, you know, it's an easier step into having that conversation and getting the help.
Absolutely. And the more you think about it, the more skilled you get at being able to reflect, being able to recognize and understanding where your difficulties are, because we all have them.
Yeah.
You know, I think pretending that we're superhuman is just not helpful.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny, isn't it? We you know, we pay our house insurance and look after that. We take our car for an MOT, and you know, for our own self and well-being and mental health, we do diddly squatting. So you know, for the majority of people, it's like, you know, you are worth the investment, and it's that as well, isn't it? When you see people like go, well, I can't really afford it. It's like, can you afford not to?
Yeah.
And you know, your mind is so important. You know, everything that you do originates from your mind,
Yeah.
from your imagination. Every
Mm.
single thing, to putting a kettle on, to going to the toilet, to designing a brand new fancy dancy business, it all comes from the same place. Yeah.
I
That
know.
is so good. That is so
For a
good.
small thing, our brain's a powerful, scary thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It has the power to make us or break us, really. And we have to look after it and manage it well. And I think, sort of summing up here, one of the things that jumped out to me was how little we are taught in schools, in education, in society, about how to look after our minds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what fascinates me is that as human beings, we almost treat our life as an endurance test.
Mm.
It's like, how hard can I push myself? How late can I stay up? How early can I get up? How many work things can I get into the day? And, we just chat, we get on that hamster wheel and we just keep going and keep going. And you look at how elite athletes look after themselves. They have a period of rest, they have a period of psychological intervention, they have a period of physical activity, and they're great. But us bog standard humans are just like, nope, we're just gonna keep on trucking.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
that's because we're influenced, aren't we, by what's classified as normal in the societies and the circles that we mix in. So,
Yeah.
and again, it's about that, you're only working hard if you're working 60 hours a week. Really, work smarter rather than harder. So
Yeah.
it's that, and it's a perception of all those outside influences that make us all behave in a certain way, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's odd, funny. I think it's like really strip it back down and come back to basics, isn't it? In some ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Wow, this has been a
Ah.
great conversation. I'd be happy to continue even further. So just one final gem, if you had a final gem to help people when we're looking at a topic, time to talk, what would your gem be, Linda?
Oh gosh. My gem would be, I think it's on the back of everything that I've said earlier.
Yeah.
I think as leaders, as human beings, pay attention to the people around you and look out for that person who has changed slightly, doesn't look quite right, whatever, and just ask them, are they okay?
Yeah.
How you doing? How you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be mine.
Well, that I would agree with 100%. Yes, I'd second you. And also, ask again, because from my experience, is the initial, I'm fine.
Yeah.
But go back and ask again and show that ongoing concern. I think it's a brilliant gem. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, amazing. Well, thank you very much, Linda, for joining us. It's been a great chat, and it's enlightening, I'm sure, for a lot of people. So, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me on. It's been lovely. It's always great to see you too.
And you.